Welcome to the 2024 Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship. And I cannot believe it, with my guest host right here, Nate Ramsey, and we're about to take off and do the Dunlop Motorcycle Tires Track Walk to give all of our fans a preview of what the Anaheim Stadium Supercross track's all about.
Sounds good, let's do it.
All right, let's start off right here, and we're heading down here. And Nathan, you know, for 23rd season for myself with Dunlop, I've had a really great opportunity to work with you many, many years. And I think even your own riders don't realize you have 15 AMA Supercross wins. You have one in the Premier class, but that one Premier class win was very, very special in 2002 at Pontiac, right?
Correct, yep.
And tell us about what's so special about that one race with the bike that you rode.
Well, obviously it was the first year for the 450 from Honda, and the funny story is when Japan sent the first bike over, the bike was so fast that I spent 2 years trying to slow it down to make it rideable. And one of the things claim to fame that I have is the bike was so fast. I made a joke to the Japanese engineers that, hey, it's so fast, I need a street bike hump to hold me in place.
Wait, is that a true story?
It's true.
I had heard that.
I swear, people don't want to believe me, but it's true.
I had heard you had kind of invented the hump seat. So
right.
Is that a true story?
I don't claim. I claim the hump seat, but the bump was after that. But
okay.
Yeah. So
gotcha.
The bike was so fast. Ultimately, I said, hey, I need to stay in place. As a joke, they sent it, and I went to Pontiac, and I won that weekend. It was my only, Premier class win, and it was an awesome race. Obviously, a lot of leaders on that race, and I ended up taking the checker, so it was awesome.
Yeah, it was very good. I remember how happy I was actually there. I got to see it, and the old Pontiac Silverdome is no longer in place.
No.
But this is what's pretty cool right here. Speaking of needing a lot of fast horsepower, coming down a long straightaway, not often we see right-hand corners, but this is a really, really wide corner. And measurement-wise, I'm guessing it's about 250 feet to that corner. But the chalk line where they're going to have the hole shot line will be over here because we are on the day before. This is Friday. The weather's perfect. There's not a cloud in the sky.
Awesome, yeah.
It's a little bit chilly. With the new format, though, they'll be racing a little earlier in the night, so it won't be so cold at the end of the night.
Right.
But about 370 feet before they officially called the hole shot. So.
Okay. Yep.
And right here, this is an interesting obstacle. You don't always go into a little step-up tabletop.
Yeah. No, this is interesting because it's pretty manageable off the start, but when the laps are coming and you're coming into a sharp face like this at higher speeds, it's tough because you have to learn how to control it, how to set your bike up for an obstacle like this, and also, rider positioning and how to, kind of preload the suspension so it doesn't just kick you over the bars going into here.
And how about these little pebbles? These things don't give a lot of traction when you're trying to turn a front wheel, especially of a 450. Yep. But so Nathan, your official position now, since I believe it's the third season that you've been the team manager on the Rockstar Energy Husqvarna or factory Husqvarna racing. I'm sorry to mess that up, but you work a lot with these young kids, and a couple of them veterans. I mean, your only 250 rider here on the West Coast is RJ Hampshire, so he would be considered, no question, a veteran in the 250 class.
Yep.
And then you've got Malcolm Stewart, all healthy again, and Christian Craig. So when you're working with these veteran riders, what kind of advice do you give these riders?
Well, believe it or not, like there's a point when these riders get good, and not everyone, but they think they know it all, right?
Yeah.
And then they come back around as they get older, and they're thirsty for anything that can help. So, RJ is, you watch him, he's an absolute, animal on the motorcycle. He works hard, he trains hard, he always gives you everything. So he's easy. Like I might see a small little detail. It's all little details with them. Like, hey, you're riding the rear brake a little bit too far here, or hey, stand up before this seat bounces out of the corner. You don't have to seat it.
Okay.
It's faster if you stand.
Very
little
cool.
things like that. So small details, and they all respond very well because they're so good. I can tell them.
Yep.
I can literally tell them,
like
and they pick it up. And if we're at the test track, I'll go stand in a corner, and they'll correct it without me even telling them.
Wow. So you're coming down third baseline. This is a baseball stadium. Third base field's a little larger, so you can build a big track here. Coming off the tabletop, we got to see what was nice for us today is press day was pretty much a practice session, to be honest with
Yep.
you. And it's typical California mud where the mud's sticking to your bottom of your
Yeah,
shoes.
yeah.
You have to be careful not to fall. But we got to see the entire track other than the whoops. So
Yep.
I like to, for me, that's nice. It's fun watching all the top riders, and you get to go out there and see what the lines develop. They also, first race, butterflies, you're nervous as heck. And everybody knows, you know, the old saying about you can't win the championship in the first race, but you can lose it.
Sure
and
is.
so
Very
you
true.
have had the opportunity a couple of times to win the season opener, right? In the 125 class or the 250F class.
Yep.
And that being said, what does it do for your psyche? And can you know, when you get off onto a good start like that?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think we heard at the press conference itself, the riders all work hard. Everybody's doing what they think is correct, right? What they think is right to get here and be the best they can. But you don't know until you line up and race everyone, and then you get a feel for where you're at. So to come out here and win the first one,
Yep.
it sets the tone big time.
It does.
Big time.
Yeah,
So if you can start off, put the right foot in front of the other, but you can also get carried away with just trying to come out here and win. You need to be in the money. You need to be. Depends on the class. You know, 250 class is a lot shorter series, so it definitely depends. 450 to 250, what your mental, approach is to it. So you know, you got the long season of the 450s compared to the short season of the 250s. So it's a different thought process that goes into that.
Well, those watching who have watched the Anaheim races in the past, this is kind of a traditional lane here. You come down, it's a table, downside the table, and they're going double and then tripling into the corner right here. So they're tripling into the Oakley, tough blocks here, into the bowl corner. I think that bowl corner, I don't want to say it's been the same for years, but it does seem very similar. But the dirt right now, for some reason, seems a little better.
It does.
I felt like the riders had more cornering speed, less adobe, less ruts. And this dirt has been in here for a month and a half, almost 2 months, because they had the Monster Truck All-Stars here back in December.
Yeah, so the fear was this week it rained, and it was going to be that super soft base, and you know, everybody was kind of worried what it's going to be like. But man, after today, you can see we're set up for a great race and a great track. I think this track layout is really good.
Yeah, most riders were downsiding that table also. Just tight, coming in tight, riding the single here, and then just taking this jump here, drifting right across. And now we're coming back across the starting line, where the riders can certainly pick up a lot of speed as they head this way into another, it's not even a full 180 corner, but it was a neat setup. The guys were coming in hard. Some guys were tucking it in tight. Some guys were taking it wide to get a harder run out of the corner. So a definite passing opportunity right here. And you you can see this right here. They're digging it up, trying to break up the dirt.
Yep.
Get a little of that crust off of it.
Yep, opening it up so it doesn't get all sealed up like concrete.
Yep.
But this is a great passing point because what you choose to do back there will set you up for what you can do right here in this.
Yep.
What do you want to call it, a 150-degree turn?
Yeah, so it's 90 plus, maybe 120, who knows?
All right.
I'm not going to get my protractor
Right,
out.
okay.
We're not going to hold anybody against it, but yeah, right here, if you want to take the camera and you can look, it looks like you'd want to jump towards the scoreboard, but you can see where the tires are actually going right here. They're coming up and jumping back to the left. So with this design, not a whole lot of action getting over on the right-hand side there, but they're definitely jumping over the inside. We can just walk around it.
And you can see, though, the guys who start from the outside back here, they end up further left. The guys who take the inside end up right. So then that's a setup coming into this next right-hander.
Yep.
It gives you opportunity to kind of, read somebody, know where they're going. You might make them protect, then you go outside, you cut back under them. Or if they don't, obviously, there's possible block pass in the future for that one.
Yeah, these guys were hammering across here, and this is where I was watching. There's a manager tower up here, but the one thing that I noticed is just how much speed these guys were carrying. There were some ruts, kind of little berms, but they weren't the kind that really grabbed your bike. And the guys were almost doing stoppies into this, and as soon as the rear wheel would come down, they were starting to accelerate way before the halfway of the corner, and they were pinning it through here.
Yeah, so with that corner not rutting up, like you're saying,
Yep.
it stays a little looser, and you kind of rear steer, so it's all throttle. The throttle helps you steer around the corner instead of trying to do it all with the, turning the handlebars.
Right, full 180 bull, flat out across in front of your mechanic. Hopefully he's giving you the P1 sign and you're all ready to go, right?
Exactly.
But it was fun watching the guys get out of here. Some of the guys were coming out of here. 250 class, you had a whole group of guys. I mean, obviously Levi Kitchen, you had Thrasher, Kitchen switching to the Pro Circuit Kawasaki. RJ Hampshire looked great. Max Volan looked really good on his Pro Circuit Kawasaki, and everybody's talking, of course, Joe Shimoda's been on that Honda that has not lost in years under the Lawrence brothers, so it's almost an expectation, a lot of pressure for that kid to win this race. So coming across here, now this was fun to watch. These guys were flying across here, and as these bumps got bigger and bigger, they were hitting them trying to carry and double. It was almost a Supercross method, but when they're landing, did you see all the twitching that I saw?
Oh, yes, yeah. Well, you got to think about it. This little section that we just walked is more of like a motocross style section, right?
Yep.
So if you adjust your Supercross setting to be good on this, it's not going to be good on the rest of the track. So you almost got to suck it up, man up, handle that little twitch, handle those little uncomfortable feelings, and get to the rest of the part where it's Supercross, where you need that stiffer, more held up suspension that performs good on the other side of the track. So it's a give and take, but if you change too much for this section, you're gonna hate it over there.
Yeah, this is about as close as you're gonna get to an outdoor section here. And here's a couple of the grooves. You can see this was one of the main lines right here. Some guys were dropping into the inside, but here's something that we're seeing happen right here.
Whoa.
Yeah, and Nathan's like, I'm glad I did this Dunlop Motorcycle Tires track walk, because now I get to go tell my riders what's going on here.
Right.
You can see out here, this was a pretty, this was a popular line right here, and the riders were hitting it. It was a little bit of a dragon back kind of setup here.
Yeah, real mellow dragon back.
I'm sure the track builders at Dirtworks got together with the officials, and they kind of decided, well, let's do some modifications to the track. So
I'm surprised, actually.
I'm a little surprised myself too, because we don't see it this often, but it's happening right now.
Right.
This dragon back, they just maybe wanted to slow the track down just a little bit. So they're going to do that.
Yeah, sometimes I think with dragon backs, the history of them, they can be dangerous, obviously. And then you got one that you're turning kind of, if these guys are taking the insides, they're turning up the face of that dragon back. And then you got a Supercross triple going the other way in the next lane that's right there. So that could be some of the thought process. I'm not sure, but that would be my guess.
Yeah, I think you're right in that aspect. When you think about it, it's probably a good chance it was a safety situation, because you got back-to-back lanes here coming across. This track, when you first watch it, it's going in all sorts of different directions.
Yeah.
And I was privy to a little conversation you had with a couple of your riders, and they're like, Hey Nathan, where the first turn, they weren't even exactly sure how the first turn laid out.
Right, like you pointed out.
It's so busy.
It's not typical to have a right-hander for a first turn, so they just assume it's a left, and if they're not paying attention, you get yourself in trouble. But just to make a point of the reasoning behind why it's typically a left-handed turn, just for the general public, is just riders need access to all brakes, right? So when you're going into a right-hander, your foot comes off, you have no rear brake. And even though the front brake is the major stopping power, you still get a little control from 10% of using the rear brake. So that's why.
So turning around right here, Derek, if you want to go back, you can see when you land off of that, this is flat out. And people are like, oh, it's so fast. But I don't know. I've got a few years of experience watching this. This is where the action happens. When you let guys go flat out, and one guy can just get a little better drive, and that speed carries into a corner like this, I think you're going to see some passing here. And it just happens to be in the final corner. So
seems to always end up that way, right?
Yeah. So we've all seen races come down to this final corner, a little love tap or a little more than that, right? And this could be a lot of fun to watch. You got to block your corner there. You got to block the inside, but you got to protect the line and take off. So
it's a fine line between holding your line or holding like a line to protect, but still keeping the speed so you don't let the other riders get away if someone's in front of you.
So this is the part I always like when I do if I ever walk with track walk with people who like, you know, maybe from corporate Dunlop and had never seen a Supercross track, and they realize for the first real time that when they're standing down there, they can't see anything but a face wall of dirt.
Yeah.
And they look up and they see the upper deck of the stadium. They don't see down below. They don't see the A and the Budweiser side. They see the upper deck, and they're just like, wait. This is all you see? And I'm like, yep.
So,
and these guys land within inches of each,
yep,
where they're supposed to every time.
So the timing of that, it's really hard to time something you can't see the landing to.
Exactly.
But these guys are all pros, and they've done it a million times. And even though this finish line is massive for a finish line,
it is huge, all the way across the starting line.
They know, you know, for the most part, they get it right.
Yep, you're crossing the starting line here. Nice, a little bit rounded for some safety. But we figured this was about 70, we figured in the 70s, right?
Yeah, right around 70, I believe.
Yep. So, and then you go right into another double.
Triple.
Oh, yeah, it is a triple.
Yeah.
Well, you better hope it's not a triple.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's double, triple, but yeah, in reality, everybody's clearing the far
Yeah, nobody's using that unless there's some sort of banging over that. But like you said before, if you go for a block pass in the finish line turn and you end up having to single that, then you might have to double single this.
And the last thing you want to do.
Right.
And this comes into a corner here. This is a corner for me. It sets below what they used to call the knothole club, and it's kind of like the VIP area where the yellow signs are. And a lot of people are standing, but this corner always has a lot of action.
Oh,
I mean, I know sometimes it used to be like the second corner of the race. Other times it comes later.
Always
has a lot of action, and it sits in a shady part. This never gets sun during the winter hours. This little corner right here never gets beating down sun, so it always is a little bit softer. They don't have to put any water on it, as you can see.
It gets ruddy, like there'll be some really good ruts and lines here.
Yep, you'll have multiple lines. You can see up on top where they've been going up on top. They're getting so close to going. That's why they have those nets. They're getting so close to the top. I mean, there's knob marks. There's knob marks up in this area up here, so it's pretty high there.
And also, you'll see with this section, coming in here, this is a big rhythm section we're coming up on.
Yep.
And in order to set it up to do the big rhythm, you got to go pretty high.
Yep.
Right? So then it sets up a possible block pass underneath or something like that.
Yep.
But you're not making this rhythm section without a little extra distance from the top of that berm.
Okay. Being team manager, you got to watch video. I walked in the Husqvarna truck there, and you guys were watching video. From where I was watching from, it was hard to tell what the quick combo was here. But again, we got to see the riders pretty much race it at race. So we're coming out, the high one is in the middle, you got the low one on the other side, so they were clearing this, right?
Correct, yep.
And then we got a single, and what we used to call downsiding a table, but now they try to call it a triple, I guess, because it's a...
Right, because there's two,
Yeah, there's a front edge and a back edge.
So double would be landing on the table.
Yes, exactly, and a triple is here. So into this right here, but were some of the guys actually getting a full quad? Were they clearing
this? So you look at this section and you see 3 out of the corner on off.
Okay.
Right? Instead of going on off, they take
this out of it.
This doesn't matter, right?
Right.
It's you jump to the next single, so it's 4. So 1, 2 would be up here, 3 would be here.
Yeah, so they were
4 is right there.
They were triple quadding.
Yes.
And I saw the 450 guys because they are way up in the air and they're going really fast when they're doing that.
Right.
So then once they're coming here, landing in this pocket, they're launching up over what we've called maybe a 3.5, 4 footer.
Yep.
Clearing the other table.
Well, this is another on-off, right?
Yep. If you wanted to do that. But
right. 250
guys maybe. But I saw him landing, I believe, in between the next pocket and then just riding that corner.
So you're looking at a 3 out of the right-hander, quad, single into this right-hander.
Right.
Or, trust me when I say, somebody's going to go all the way into the corner. So I can't even add that high. I think it's 5.
Yeah.
So think about 3, 4, 5 into the corner right before a whoop section that you're coming up on. So you're shifting up.
So we got a little caveat here. We got a little asterisk next to our statements here. Look at the tire tracks here. Why? Because they were turning here and heading down connecting to the first corner. They weren't doing the whoops This is what they had. Only sections they had blocked off are the back-to-back whoops here. So you got about 120 feet of whoops on both sides. I think there's 9 on each side. So what you're saying, if they can quad it all the way into this corner, get a big wide run out of that bowl, and you can see guys were up here, even in press day, they were practicing as if it's a racetrack. There's no reason to get really good at cutting to the inside, because that's not where you're going to be racing.
No.
They were practicing what they're going to do. Even if it's really slow here, they didn't really care. They wanted to get the rhythm of setup to go right down the whoops. So
you want your brain to start processing what it's going to be like tomorrow, which is what counts. So you're looking at that corner like, all right, how do I get to the correct gear for a set of whoops like this? Obviously they're pretty long and they look nice and mellow and easy right now, but we all know they're going to turn into sharp and kicked up and gnarly. And this little section right here, so whoops, dragon backs and on-offs are what drains the rider's energy, makes them the most tired. So if you're good at whoops and you don't get all tight and you're good at it and you have the right technique and obviously bike setup and all that stuff, you can save some energy that other guys might be wasting with a bad setup.
Did you like, when you're talking about now the format, instead of the 20 lap main events when you and I rode way back in the dinosaur days, they got the recent years, they've had 20 minutes for the 450s, 15 for the 250s. Did you like a longer track? I mean, it makes, to me, I would like a longer track. I don't want to go through these whoops 27 times.
No.
Some of the smaller track, they're literally doing 27, 28 laps in 20 minutes.
Which to me is crazy, and I also, and I've said this, but I believe that causes more mistakes, more injuries. Things go wrong when you're doing that many laps. These bikes are so fast and so gnarly these days that they chew up the track. So the more laps you do, the gnarlier it gets, especially in the whoops. Right? So if you were to turn it back to a 20-minute or a 20 lapper, it feels easy to them these days. But then you flip it forward to our days, 20 laps at Daytona is gnarly.
Too much. This is my favorite section. Into this whoop, into my favorite corner. Can you guess why this is my favorite corner?
Why? Oh, I see.
Because it's a left-hander.
Oh,
It's a left-hander. I like left-handers more than right-handers.
I do too, actually.
So,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay. So back into the set of whoops. We go right from a couple of Dunlop whoops into some Alpine Stars whoops. And then into our sister company. You probably have a few sets of Falcon tires on your cars, knowing that it's Dunlop's automobile line. Huh?
Yep.
You got it.
Absolutely.
So, coming down these whoops right here. These look pretty mellow to me. I think a couple of years back, if you guys remember, they had some gnarly, incredibly difficult whoops. I think Colt Nichols, some other guys got injured in the first round. I think there was a little bit of like, did you have to make them so difficult at round 1? Let these guys get their bearings about them, let them get kind of into the season, get back on that full Supercross. Because before this SMX series, primarily you rode motocross and you really didn't get on a pure full-blown pro Supercross track until you started practicing and then get to Anaheim.
All through the off season and then practice. But just a little catch-22 to the whoops being a little bit smaller at the first round. I get it, I understand the approach, but the smaller they are, the faster you go. Right, and they still get edgy and kicked out and holes in them. So you're going faster. So if you do crash, it's usually a bit more violent, which is no good. The big gnarly ones, you can only go so fast. And if you're one of the guys that are good enough to get through them, it's a big, time maker.
It sounds like a team manager has two pretty good whoop riders. You got Malcolm Stewart and you got Christian Craig, two of the better whoop riders. So, So coming out of this, it looks a little soft. They put a lot of water here. Surprising to me, it's this soft little. 2 heights and jump here, but as soon as you come out of this corner right here, we're going to be intersecting. If Derek doesn't, this is slippery, so we need to be careful here. But we're going to be jumping right out onto the intersection where you come back into the first corner here. And so that is a lap at Anaheim 1. And thank you very much for tuning in. Next week, one of your favorite locations. What do you have, 2 or 3 wins in San Francisco?
I got a couple there in San Francisco. I got one that was full-blown mud race win, and then had a really good battle with Tedesco one year and won in the normal conditions. And it's been good to me. I don't know why. Certain venues just kind of work out that way, and I think your confidence goes up, and then you get to that, even though it's a totally different track, there's just something about the atmosphere and the vibe at that event. So because I've had a lot of repeats, at places, and I'm not the only one. So
nice,
cool.
Nice. Well, thank you, Nathan Ramsey, for joining us at the Dunlop Motorcycle Tires Track Walk here at round 1 of the 2024 Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship. We'll see you next week from San Francisco.